The oral law is a rigid 3,000-year unbroken chain of objective constitutional law, though it is routinely described as a loose collection of traditions. Tracing this chain requires looking at the scholars and Supreme Court justices responsible for its transmission, men engaged in exacting, dynamic debate over precise codes. This judicial reality corrects a persistent academic misconception regarding the prophets. History often frames them as spiritual visionaries or mystics delivering cryptic warnings. Strictly speaking, the prophets were institutional leaders. They served as the chief justices of their eras, dedicated to the enforcement and preservation of the Sinai Constitution. The final words recorded by Malachi, the last prophet of the era, provide the definitive evidence for this institutional focus. As the age of prophecy closes, Malachi delivers a final command to the nation: "Remember the Torah of Moses, my servant." The prophetic era concludes with a rational injunction to uphold the existing objective law, rather than a new, mystical revelation. The prophets leave the stage as the ultimate guardians of the Constitution. When the First Temple was destroyed, the Jewish aristocracy was physically relocated into the heart of the Babylonian Empire. While the loss of sovereign territory typically ends a nation's legal system, the Sinai constitutional framework remained intact. The exiled leadership executed a calculated establishment of the Shaf Ve'yativ synagogue in Nahardea, specifically to house their courts. The leadership transported foundation stones and dirt from the destroyed temple in Jerusalem across the desert to Babylon. By embedding these stones, they legally consecrated the structure. This transfer of jurisdiction allowed the synagogue to serve as the authorized Supreme Court in exile. This institution maintained the legal code as an active, enforceable body of law, entirely independent of territorial borders. The survival of the court in Babylon demonstrated that the Sinai Constitution was a portable jurisprudence. This created the exact legal precedent required to maintain the law throughout the subsequent 2,000-year diaspora. 70 years after the exile began, the Persian Empire allowed the Jewish people to return to Jerusalem and resume their sovereignty. The returning exiles faced a central legal tension: Jeremiah's prophecy of a new covenant, or Berit Hadashah. Standard replacement theology misinterprets this prophecy as a mandate for an entirely new set of laws, but the Hebrew text dictates a different process. The Hebrew text of Jeremiah 31 specifies renewal rather than replacement. Legally, there is a distinction between voiding a broken contract and renewing an existing one. Like a marriage after estrangement, the parties and vows remain the same, but the commitment is actively reestablished. This new covenant was the Amana, a formal, physical renewal of the original Sinai vows by the returning nation. To prepare for this reacceptance, the nation deliberately separated themselves from foreign legal influences, isolating their constitutional identity. The new covenant functioned as the strict constitutional mechanism required to reactivate the existing legal framework for a returning sovereign state. The Book of Esther acts as a parallel legal record of this era, occurring contemporaneously with the work of Ezra and Nehemiah. The conclusion of Esther contains the precise legal phrasing: "The Jews established and accepted," or Kiyemu v'kiblu. This illuminated contract shows the placement of that phrase within a standard Jewish legal agreement. In jurisprudence, Kiyemu indicates a strict judicial certification, meaning certified by the court. It shares a direct linguistic root with the authoritative legal seal, the binding signature on official contracts. This terminology serves as the definitive legal seal, verifying the public ratification of the Constitution. By utilizing this vocabulary, the text converts a narrative history into a binding judicial record. The verse in Esther provides the legally binding verification of the Amana ceremony in the Book of Nehemiah, proving the continuity of the law. The historical climax of this legal process occurred within the physical landscape of Jerusalem. The men of the Great Assembly performed the physical act of signing a massive parchment document to seal the covenant. This assembly consisted of the princes, the Levites, and the priests, acting as the official legal representatives of the nation. This was an event of rigorous transparency, favoring public, contractual consent over mystical ambiguity. The public signing legally bound the entire nation, both those present and all future generations, to the renewed constitutional framework. This legal ratification was grounded in the physical geography of the land, marking a tangible act of statecraft. A nation successfully maintained its Supreme Court in exile and formally re-ratified its constitution upon regaining its land. This ancient ratification creates a specific legal framework for the modern era. For 2,000 years, the Jewish people occupied what the Kuzari calls a humiliated nation status, maintaining the covenant in exile, but without the priestly kingdom power described at Sinai. Today, the vibrant modern state of Israel provides the crucial physical platform required to finally end that historical status. The current return to sovereignty mirrors the conditions Ezra faced, a population back on its soil, needing a unified legal identity. Because the terms of the covenant regarding a holy nation and mighty kingdom require a land to function, the physical return makes the renewal of those terms a legislative necessity. This necessitates establishing the continuous 3,000-year oral law as the recognized constitutional foundation of the state. Completing this blueprint requires the final institutional step, the re-establishment of the Supreme Court of Israel to its full traditional judicial authority. The unbroken chain of the oral law is the exact legal blueprint for the modern resumption of Jewish sovereignty.